The age which highly exalts Great Five freedom beer St. Patrick's shirt independence of thought and self-reliance. I was becoming my own pope. The guidelines I used in interpreting scripture seemed simple enough. When the plain sense of scripture makes common sense, seek no other sense. Sectarian one became. We would even argue heatedly over verses on love. Within my circle of Bible-believing friends, I witnessed a mini-explosion of sects and schismatic movements. Each Great Five freedom beer St. Patrick's shirt claiming to be true to the Bible, and each in bitter conflict with the others. Serious conflict arose over every issue imaginable. Charismatic gifts, interpretation of prophecy, the proper way to worship, communion, church government, discipleship, discipline in the church, morality, accountability, evangelism, social action, the relationship of faith and works, the role of women, and ecumenism. Besides, the rising oil prices have given way to pressure the inflation rate. The mounting prices of package holidays are indicative of the upward cost of traveling for Britons moving out of the country. Great Five freedom beer St. Patrick's shirt, ladies' tee, long-sleeved, sweater and hoodie. Great Five freedom beer St. Patrick's ladies' tee. Ladies' tee. The trouble is sensed by weak behavior in the pound. The Office for National Statistics has pointed, increase in food and electricity prices is one of the key factors, which is adding drastically to the inflation rate. High expenditure is spent on essential commodities, which has affected household spending excessively. The resultant is that consumer spending has gone Great Five freedom beer St. Patrick's shirt sluggish. With slow-paced economic growth, who is to blame? Labor and the unions have already started to accuse the government of paying no heed to the troubles of workers after the UK pay growth plummeted lower than inflation in early 2017 for 2.5 years. Resolution Foundation analysed and found that the wages were still £16 a week lower than their 2008 peak, due to which several families are showing the strains. The most recent example of this involved DARPA's Insect Allies program, which officially aims to protect the U.S. and to ensure food security in the event of a major threat, according to both DARPA Great Five freedom beer St. Patrick's shirt and media reports. Whatever the real motivation behind the Pentagon's sudden and recent concern about bats being used as a vehicle for bioweapons, the U.S. for instance, DARPA spent $10 million on one project in 2018 to unravel the complex causes of bat-borne viruses that have recently made the jump to humans, causing concern among global health officials. Another research project backed by both Great Five freedom beer St. Patrick's long-sleeved and NBSP long-sleeved. DARPA and NIH saw researchers at Colorado State University examine the coronavirus that causes Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, MERS, in bats and camels to understand the role of these hosts in transmitting to humans. Other U.S., China and in countries bordering China, the behavior of many banks, and not only in Ireland and Spain, has shown the Great Five freedom beer St. Patrick's shirt that the tighter system of pan-European financial regulation now being put together is sorely needed. The statesmen who designed the euro have been criticized for putting politics ahead of economics. Motivated by the desire to promote European unification, they ignored the economics, or assumed that once the project got underway, the necessary rules for economic governance would somehow fall into place. There is truth in that criticism, but many people have forgotten that economics did play a role in the birth of the euro. In 1987, Padoa Shiopa wrote a report explaining that the exchange rate mechanism, which limited fluctuations among many European currencies, could not survive the removal of exchange controls that was agreed in that year. This report Great 5 Freedom Beer St. Patrick's shirt convinced Jacques Delors, the then president of the European Commission, and other leaders, that moving towards economic and monetary union, EMU, was urgent. Any dispute arising from contractual relations between the Institute and third parties shall Great 5 Freedom Beer St. Patrick's sweater be submitted to the tribunal, provided that its jurisdiction is expressly recognized by the parties in the contract giving rise to the dispute. The tribunal consists of 3 full members and the Great 5 Freedom Beer St. Patrick's shirt 1 substitute, chosen from outside the Institute and preferably of different nationalities. They shall be elected for 5 years by the General Assembly. Any vacancy on the tribunal is filled by co-option. The tribunal arrives at its decisions, which shall be without appeal, by applying the provisions of the statute and of the regulations as well as the general principles of law. It may also decide exit when such power has been given to it by an agreement between the parties. The president of the tribunal considers that a dispute between the Institute and one of its officers or employees is of very limited importance. He Great 5 Freedom Beer St. Patrick's shirt or she may decide it or may entrust the decision to a single judge of the tribunal by adopting its own rules of procedure. It meant that not only does this media outlet not provide editorial freedom to other journalists. Great 5 Freedom Beer St. Patrick's hoodie, as I had so hopefully Great 5 Freedom Beer St. Patrick's shirt envisioned 7 years ago, but now no longer even provides it to me. In the days heading into a presidential election, I am somehow silenced from expressing any views that random editors in New York find disagreeable, and now somehow have to conform my writing and reporting to cater to their partisan desires and eagerness to elect specific candidates. To say that such censorship is a red line for me, a situation I would never accept no matter the, is an understatement. It is astonishing to me, but also a reflection of our current discourse and a liberal media environment. That Great 5 Freedom Beer St. Patrick's shirt I have been silenced about Joe Biden by my own media outlet. It was mostly watermelon, with just a few leaves and some raisins at the bottom. The feta was creamy rather than the usual blocky, crumbly stuff. Perhaps it was my expectations, but I wish there were more greens and cheese and less melon. Next, I tried the goat. Other products